So there has been a recent model released by OpenAI on the chatbot arena that many people are speculating could be potentially GPT 4.5 or GPT-5 itself. And I'm going to get into exactly what this is because this has a lot of people wondering about the next model release for OpenAI. So if you don't know what this is, first off, I'm going to explain to you the chatbot arena. So right here, you can see that we are on the webpage that is the chatbot arena. And essentially what this is it's a webpage where you can test chatbots against each other. So you could enter any question. So you could say, why is AGI so dangerous? And then when I click send, right now, two different AI systems are going to be responding to that query. And I can basically side by side see which AI system is better. Now, essentially what we're doing here, this is a blind test, and this is the website that many people are using to find out the capabilities of this new GPT-2 model. So we can see right here that basically we would look at which one was better, we would read it, and then at the end we would give it a rating based on which one was better. Now, what's crazy about this is that you can see right here that this one did 9 points, that was pretty good, this one did 10 points, and I think maybe this one was a little bit better. But what we can do is I can say that this is pretty much a tie, and then I can click tie, and then it's going to give us the information on which model it is. So we can see here that model A was Llama 370 billion parameters and model B was GPT-4. Now, why I'm showing you this is so that you can understand what was going on. So on this website, what sometimes actually does happen is sometimes companies may release models secretly to see how they actually stack up on the leaderboard. You see, every time we rate an AI system, the leaderboard gets updated and the elo gets pushed higher. We can see that currently GPT-4 is quite high. But something interesting happened a few days ago. A few days ago, we had this right here. Someone commented on Reddit stating that the GP2 chatbot at the LMSYS chatbot arena. They said that I was using the arena as you do and got a really good response from something called GPT2 chatbot. The other model was GPT-40125 and the GP2 one was at least as good. Does anyone know what this was? And it doesn't seem to be able to be manually selectable on head-to-head. Now, this was something that actually initially sparks the speculation for what the GP2 model might be. And this was, in fact, the first instance that we got to see of GP2 in the wild. And many of the comments on Reddit were actually stating that this model was really good and in some cases even better. Now, it's important to note that this is not actually the GPT-2 model that was released in February of 2019, which is the second series in the Generative Pre-trained Transformer series, which was the predecessor to GPT-3, which was the predecessor to 3.5, and of course then 4, which is what we use now. So it's important to know that this is not actually an old model, and I'll get into why there is a lot more information that gives us the details on why this isn't the case. Now, you can see right here that some people have been stating that GPT 4.5 probably, and it comes with an 8 prompt to limit. Have fun, it's really good. And essentially on this website, what has happened is there has been a model called the GPT-2 chatbot that has been surpassing other AI systems, namely mainly GPT-4 and of course other state-of-the-art models like Claude Opus in reasoning tasks and in coding tasks. And like I said before, many people are now speculating which as to what this model could really be. So some people have stated it could be GPT 4.5. Some people have stated that it could be, of course, GPT-4 Lite, because when you actually ask this LLM what it is, it says that it's based on the GPT-4 architecture, which is a type of LLM developed by OpenAI, and this is a pretty standard response. Now, we do know that this is actually from OpenAI because there have been some tweets to confirm the speculation, but what the most interesting things are about this are of course the abilities of this model. So I'm going to walk you through some of the abilities of this model, which are actually quite impressive considering the model's stealth release. So someone did actually post this on Reddit, and you can see that this was posted by Kala Decker, and you can see that this was a question that he asked to many of the state-of-the-art models. We can see here that this was a question, if we look on the top hand right, how many characters are in this message? The answer is highlighted here with 40, and then we can see that Llama 3 got this wrong. It says there are 34 characters. Mistral Large got this wrong. It says there are 59 characters. We can see that Claude 3 Opus got this wrong, stating 38 characters, and that GPT-4, the most recent one, actually got it wrong, saying 43 characters. The only model, apparently, that got this right was, of course, the GPT-2 chatbot, which actually used a different reasoning level and then, of course, got to 40 characters. Now, I think the most interesting thing about this is that this model is different in the sense that its reasoning steps were quite different. You can see that the Llama 3 just initially answered. This one right here initially answered straight away. This one answered and this one answered. And then this one literally did a step-by-step kind of like chain of thought prompting and then got to its answer, which actually surpassed every other test. Now, there was also this right here. You can see that there are the other tests that some individuals have been conducting. Now, I don't want to state that I did conduct this test myself, but there are other capabilities that we do want to talk about. And this is the apple test. And there have been many different variations of this test. And basically, it's a simple reasoning test that asks, today, Tommy has 2 apples. Yesterday, he ate 1 apple. How many apples does Tommy have? And the reason this question is a little bit tricky for large language models and AI systems is because they get confused on the fact that he has 2 apples and he ate 1 apple, and then, you know, it's 2 minus 1 is 1, which is of course incorrect, because the trick is that today he has 2 apples and yesterday he ate 1 apple. So he would have, you know, 2 apples still, because eating something yesterday doesn't change the amount that you have now if you've just stated that at the first time. So that was something that many people did get wrong. So you can see Tommy has 2 apples today, which is correct. And I'm guessing that this was another model, which was probably GPT-4 or something like that, that got this wrong. Now, I did actually test this myself, and I do want to say that, so there are many different tests that you can do, but one of the most interesting things I did see was this claim from Demetrius saying that the GPT-2 chatbot solved this but used completely wrong reasoning. Filler tokens help, I guess. And someone else asked, does Turbo solve this? And he states that neither Claude 3 Opus nor GPT-4 Turbo 2024 0409, both with 0 temperature, can solve this. So it does seem like there might be some kind of increased capability in this model. And there is tons and tons and tons and tons of speculation. And there was also one example that I did find even more interesting, which was this one where someone asked GPT-4 Turbo and GPT-2 chatbot to make a game using JavaScript in a single HTML document. These are the results. The first one is GPT-4 Turbo. Right here, essentially, you can see a game, and the game doesn't pretty much work. It does have a score, it does have a timer, but unfortunately, nothing is going on in the game. And then you can see here, this is like some kind of Space Invaders style game where you have to collect the points. And this was what GPT-2 chatbot apparently did code from scratch, which means that potentially it shows that there's a level of complexity in the GPT-2 chatbot that means it surpasses what is in the GPT-4 Turbo one. Now, here's the thing, okay? Many people that are speculating whether or not this model is even real, there's a lot of different things that people can say, but something that we did see that actually did put the nail in the coffin was this tweet from Sam Altman. Now, of course, as you know, he is the CEO of OpenAI and is most likely to know when something does change. And essentially, him actually tweeting, I do have a soft spot for GPT-2, is rather important. Now, why is this even more important than we might think? Because if we actually take a look at what's going on here, one of the key things that we saw was with this tweet, what we actually did see, which actually made this a lot more interesting, was the fact that he first tweeted this. He first tweeted, I do have a soft spot for GPT-2. And the reason that this is a substantial difference is because GPT-2 with a dash in between it actually refers to this GPT-2 right here. So you can see our model called GPT-2. That one is, of course, a very different one to what is being released now, which is why the change to removing the dash to GPT-2 actually does make a big difference, which means that he's not talking about an older model. What he's actually referring to is the model that is currently here released on the chatbot arena, which is, of course, as you know, called GPT-2. Now, you can also see that if you decide to go on the chatbot arena, you can see that if you scroll down to the GPT-2 chatbot, it is currently sitting in between GPT-4 Turbo and GPT 3.5 Turbo. And the thing is with this is that I've actually tested this myself, and I'm going to show you guys the tests that I used for this because I wanted to see how good this was. So one of the things that I did actually want to test with this model was I wanted to test the reasoning ability. There was a question like this that I did see on Twitter, and it does get the question right. But one of the things I did want to test was, of course, to see if it could code something that would work instantly. Now, I simply just asked it to code something that I could use in TradingView to trade based on the RSI and take profits and sell on that. And I actually did split test this with Gemini and with Claude Opus, and I gotta be honest, the current test that I didn't work for GPT-2. I can show you guys that. But I do want to state that this doesn't mean that this chatbot isn't good at all, because one simple test doesn't give you enough data points to verify whether or not a model is good. So essentially, if you come over to TradingView and you come over to the Pine editor on any chart, you can simply put in some code to see if it works, and then you click save. And essentially, when you just pretty much, add it to chart, usually there will either be an error or there will be no error. So you can see when I post in the code from GPT-2 and then I click save, you can see that when I click update on the chart, you can see that there is an error right here. But when I use Claude 3, I simply take this, then I come over to here and I simply replace it. Then I click update on the chart, and you can see that the code actually does work based on TradingView. Now, I just wanted to see if the code actually works, and currently in that one-to-one test, it didn't compared to the GPT-2 chatbot. Another thing that many people have actually been talking about that is quite fascinating is, of course, the ASCII art. Now, ASCII art isn't really a benchmark that you can use to test whether or not an AI system is good or not, but it does kind of serve as an interesting indicator on where AI systems perform in this realm. And usually more advanced systems do perform a lot better. Now, what we can actually see from this is we can actually see that the GPT-2 chatbot does do a lot better in certain ASCII arts. However, the point I'm trying to make here is that currently it does seem like there might be some kind of increase in terms of ability compared to GPT-4 Turbo. And there was also this demo here where we had someone state that GPT-2 chatbot is insane at ASCII art, miles ahead of any other model. But there was actually a small caveat to this. So, of course, you can see initially the user asks both to create an ASCII art unicorn. You can see Llama 3's one is pretty terrible, and then GPT-2's is pretty incredible. However, we can see that someone also realized that ASCII art is one-to-one copied from the internet, and it seems that the GPT-2 model is better at recalling the training data. So we can also see here that this is actually from an ASCII art archive where the same exact robot is there, and it seems that GPT-2 has pasted this in. So it seems that what we have currently is a mysterious chatbot that has popped up, and with Sam Altman currently stating that he loves himself a bit of GPT, it clearly does mean that what we are potentially going to be looking at here is another model. But the thing is that the discrepancies in the abilities don't seem to be that crazy in terms of a GPT-5 level jump. I mean, if it was that good, it should have been able to get my question right. And of course, this is just a personal experience, but as some others have stated, if this is something that is GPT 4.5 or GPT 5, then it would be a little disappointing because it doesn't seem to have a huge leap in terms of reasoning capabilities. Now, maybe it is, maybe I'm completely wrong because this is just very, very strange and very, very leak-wise. And as some others have stated, one of the most important companies in the world is just doing leaks where they state, I have a soft spot for GPT-2. The point is that currently it's open for speculation. I think, like many people are stating, it probably is just a different fine-tuned version of GPT-4, maybe the less lobotomized version of it, maybe it's trained in a different way, but I'm not guessing that this is GPT 4.5, but it is pretty strange though that if it was a different version of GPT 4.5, why they wouldn't just name it that, or they wouldn't just name it GPT-4 as a preview as they have done with the leaderboards. Why would they name it GPT-2, which intentionally is going to throw people off? I have to state that that is pretty weird. My best bet for this GPT-2 model is that potentially it's some kind of test that OpenAI is running to see where one of their models is benchmarks. And like I said before, if it was GPT 4.5, I do think that they would have just named it that, or maybe they would have just done an announcement. But either way, they are doing some testings, and it would be really nice to see what kind of benchmarks have been done, because currently what we have is a few echoes in the current Twitter sphere of some people even talking on 4chan stating that, I just did some testing and that this is completely invented model name, no info about it anywhere, absurdly good output, feels like an improved GPT-4, not visible in the leaderboard, not visible in the API results, unaffected by other models, possibly peculiar rate limit, and a current theory is that it may be GPT 4.5 to GPT 5. So another example here of course, GPT-2 getting the reasoning question wrong, and then, of course, GPT-4 Turbo not getting the question right, as well as Gemini Ultra and Claude 3 Opus. One thing that I would like to see is, of course, this benchmarked in certain capabilities, like actual benchmarks like the MMLU, although that is not the best benchmark due to inaccuracies. But I think right now it could be a situation where maybe our own biases are getting in the way and just thinking that this model is completely superior when it actually isn't. But the problem is that there is, of course, a peculiar rate limit that only allows us to 8 messages. So it's pretty hard to test this, because once you have sent 8 messages, you do kind of get locked out. So let me know what you think this is. I do think that this is just kind of an OpenAI test. I don't really think that this is an entirely new model, but I do think that whatever model this is, I definitely think it's probably just some kind of GPT-4 version that we might see in the future. But if it was, why wouldn't they just state that? So it's definitely a curveball in there. And if there are any new theories or any other pieces of information, I will leave them in the comment section below, as you are all updated.